Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me again. So as promised from my previous video, I'm going to do some survival at sea stories today. 2 survival true stories. If you've not seen my previous video on Ivan Miller, aka the Australian backpacker murderer, please, I'll link it below and you can have a look at it, please, by all means. So this is going to be based on, like I said, 2 survival stories. One that's based on 2 fishermen, and another one that's based on a crew who was just having a nice little, or trying to have a nice little voyage, trip, sailing, whatever. So yeah, let's get into it. So the first one is going to be the survival story of Brad Cavannagh, or Cavannagh, I think I've said that right, Deborah and Kiley, I hope I've said that right. And they were a part of a 5 crewed membered boat called the Trashman. Now a little bit about Deborah. She's the first woman to complete the Whitbread Round the World race. So let's get into her story. So in October 1982, Deborah hired a few members of a cruise ship to help her crew and sail her 58-foot boat or yacht, the Trashman. They would be travelling from Maine to Florida after stopping over at Maryland. Now, there was a few people. There was Brad, who was the captain, I believe, and then Deborah, obviously, and then a man called John Lipoth. I think he was like the navigator, co-navigator. There was Meg Mooney and Mark, can't remember his name. I'll put it here if I can remember. Now, there is a movie that has been based on this true story. I believe it was called Capsized, Blood in the Water, which I'll try to show you the trailer for.
Are you John?
Yeah.
I'm Brad. I talked to you on the phone.
You ever sailed a 50-footer?
Who's this?
This is Brad. He grew up on the water.
I like him.
All right. Nice to meet you. Welcome aboard. Yeah, boys the jib.
Yep.
We're off.
This is Charleston Coast Guard issuing a gale warning.
Can't take anymore!
Mayday, mayday. Do you read?
So as I said, they were travelling from Maine to Florida after leaving Maryland. Now, if you believe what you see in the movie, I'll try to sum it up. They are basically travelling by the boat, obviously. Brad is kind of the last one to join the ship. Well, he claims he's not really experienced like in the teaching way of sailing a boat, but he's had experience like hands-on on the boat. So it's one of those things where it's like being brought up in the trade, but you're not brought up in the learning part of it. You've not gone to school for it, but he knows what he's doing. So he's last minute on the boat. And like, again, if you going by the movie version of it, they basically, Mark is trying to, who's a friend of John, he tries to encourage his friends to sail off course a bit to a nearby island where he's trying to meet up with somebody, which must be a common thing for him because John's like, we've been doing this how many times, we're not doing it again. And he's constantly saying that he wants to go, but then John's like, no, we're not going off route, basically. And then Mark decides to get himself drunk. Now, I don't even know what you call it, I know there's a proper word for it, which I'll put here if I find it. There's like a marine observational study department place. Yeah, and they monitor the sea and storms and all these kind of things. So they're like a side piece that are showing you they're monitoring this storm that is supposed to be coming into the sea, basically. And then you see that John can tell from the environment of the sea, with him being a good sailor, he can sense that things are not looking great. You know, the sea is turning a bit, the weather's turning a bit, the clouds are getting a bit cloudy, and he's like, oh, something's going on. So he's like, let's try and divert our way around. And Mark's like encouraging, oh, because there's a storm coming, we might as well go, you know, see my island friend, whatever. But he's like, John's like, no, we're not doing it. So Mark decides to get himself drunk and pass out. There is a warning that is sent by the marine observational people. Again, if I find it, I'll put it down. And they basically let any boats in the sea that there's a storm coming, basically, and to avoid it. Sadly, John does not get this alert because he's nowhere near the radio in the boat. And then he tells Mark, eventually, when he gets his attention, that keep an eye on the radio because, you know, we are aware that something's not going right. Let me know if there's a storm that occurs so we can avoid that area. But like I said, Mark passes out from being drunk. So instead of being able to warn John, he's passed out. So when the radio warning is coming through, nobody's hearing it. So John is fully unaware that there's two storms now heading his way. But obviously, they end up getting hit by it, and the boat's being trashed and everything. Deborah and everyone's trying to sort the boat out, keep it going. Meg's trying to help out. Brad's trying to help out. Everyone's trying to hands on deck kind of thing, and Mark's just not helping at this point. And sadly, the boat eventually capsizes. So they're all in the water. They tried to get the lifeboat, which they successfully managed to open. It is upside down at this point, so they're just clinging to it for dear life. They're still in the water. Now, at some point, Meg injures herself on the boat before they capsized. And obviously, I don't know the theory about sharks and blood, but we're brought up in movies to learn that sharks can smell blood miles away in the ocean. So, Meg's bleeding leg starts to attract sharks. They realise this eventually when they feel flapping in the water and realise they're not kicking each other. So they get onto the boat, the lifeboat. They are now floating in basically no food, no water. They couldn't get this beacon that you usually carry on boats or even on flights where you can signal ships or passerby planes to let you know where you are. They have nothing, literally just the clothes on their back. So over the next few days, they start struggling to stay alive, basically. I believe it's in the movie, you know, Mark, starts to drink the seawater because he's that thirsty, and he starts to get delusional because obviously, you know, if you have salt water, it's supposed to make you crazy. I don't know, something to do with the salts, I don't know. I'm not, the exact science I'm not sure about, but in all movies they tell you, even in sailor situations, when you're on a boat, they tell you not to drink the seawater because it makes you more thirsty and delusional. So Mark ends up drinking it, going crazy. He's shouting at intervals in the night, keeping everybody awake, and everyone's just like, you know, they can see he's going mad. At one point he's just like sitting on the edge of the boat. So the boat is like that much space away from the sea. So you have the boat, the sea, and then eventually he gets dragged down by a shark and eaten. Again, this is in the movie. John as well, he gets killed by a shark. Meg begins to become infected on her legs. Obviously she's not been seen by a doctor, she's lost a lot of blood. So Deborah and Brad give her a sea burial and basically put her body in the sea, because they can't do anything with her, they can't do anything for her. So she dies and then they put her in the sea. And eventually Brad and Deborah are discovered by a passing boat, a passing ship in fact, so they survive. But again, that is what is in the movie. Obviously there are people who say that, you know, things have been changed in this movie. So I'm going to go now into what is documented by Deborah. So again, they are hit by a storm, and this is off the Gulf Stream of North Carolina. So still, the boat capsized, and they tried to survive an 11-foot raft. And then Deborah reports that over the next 7 days, which is how long it took for them to be found, the 3 crew members would die. Mark Adams and John Lippeth, which is the 2 I mentioned earlier, are reported to have both drank the seawater. They both became delusional. John is said to have exited the raft thinking that he could see land, because obviously he's delusional, and so did Mark. He exited the raft as well, and they were both attacked and eaten by sharks. Meg Mooney died from the infected wounds that she got from aboard the ship when she got hurt. And as Deborah says, they respectfully removed her clothing and put her in the water, her and Brad, just to give her a decent as they could burial basically. And then as the next few days passed on, a passing sovereign ship managed to find Deborah and Brad and pick them up. Thankfully Deborah would go on to marry. She was able to have 2 children, a girl called Marka Kiley, and then she would also have a son called John Quattro Kiley IV. However, sadly, he died later of drowning in an accident in 2009. Deborah has managed to continue and go on to be a motivational speaker, discussing about her survival at sea, and she's gone on to write and publish 2 books. One called No Victims, Only Survivors, and then Albatross, the true story of a woman's survival at sea. Sadly, Brad never got over the trauma of being stranded at sea, and he was known to continue to have this trauma and have mental problems throughout the rest of his life. There is no documentation to say that he took it a step further, if you know what I mean, but yeah, he definitely suffered a lot, and he just couldn't move on with life as much as he wanted to, as much as Deborah did. So that was the Trash Man, and now we're going to get into a fisherman's story of survival at sea. So this one is about Jose Salvador Alvarengo. I hope I said that right. So Jose is a person who spent the longest amount of time stranded at sea. It was 14 months. He was stranded off the Pacific Ocean. He was found stranded off the Pacific Ocean in November 2012. He is known to have survived off raw fish, turtles, seabirds, or small birds, sharks, and rainwater. When he was discovered, he had swam to the Tile Islets shore on January 7th, when he was discovered by a couple. So let's get into his story. So he was born in El Salvador. In November 2012, Jose set out to go sea fishing from Costa Azul near Pajini Span. I'm going to put it here. I'm not even sure I've said that right. This was off Mexico's coast. He was an experienced sailor and fisherman, hence why he was able to catch sharks and eat them. He was meant to go deep fishing for sharks, marine and sailfish, or sallyfish. Now his usual partner at the time could not join him, so he was joined by unexperienced 23-year-old Ezequiel Corbados. Again, I'm not sure if I said that right, so I will put it here for you. After leaving, they were, similar to Deborah, they were hit by a storm. This storm had lasted 5 days, and due to it being so long, it damaged the electrical part of the boat and the motor of the boat. So they were left stranded without anywhere to move with a boat or any way to contact anybody from anywhere. Even though they had managed to go fishing and collect many fish, they sadly had to let a lot of the fish stock go back into the sea, basically, to make the boat more sea able. I'm guessing it was weighing it down or making it drift further out to sea, I'm not sure. In one way of fortune, Jose managed to radio their position before the radio did break, but obviously they were drifting out to sea, so the mile radius could have been shorter or larger from where their last position was. And without sails or anchors, which is what they'd also didn't have, they lost it in the storm, the boat was just drifting happily out to sea. They'd also sadly lost some fishing gear in the storm. There were search parties, but they only lasted for 2 days because of the poor visibility of the storm and did not commence afterwards. Jose would then begin scavenging the food that they had on board, and when they ran out of that, he would deep dive and go fishing again. He would catch fish, turtles, and seabirds to eat. From this, he would collect the food to stock up just in case, because he didn't know how long they were going to be out for sea. And occasionally they would find the odd bit of plastic in the sea, so they would collect that too. And again, they would drink rainwater, but where rainwater wasn't there, or they had run out, they would end up drinking their own urine, or turtle blood. Cordoba would eventually start losing hope of being found, and would ask Jose to make a promise to him that if he did die first, that Jose would not cannibalise his body for energy. He was also becoming very sick from eating the raw food that they were having. Jose did say that he thought about it for a bit, but he wanted to respect Salvador. He wanted to respect his friend's wishes, and his belief in Christianity also stopped him from doing this. When his friend did eventually die, Corbados, Jose began to find himself talking to his corpse, trying to keep himself sane. But then when he realised he was going insane, he decided to put Corbados in the sea and bury him. He didn't want to admit that he might be going insane and lose hope. The sad thing about Jose is that he would be seen by many ships, but due to a confusion in the name of Jose, because apparently his name was a different meaning in Mexico language or Mexico translation, people would just assume that he wasn't the person that was missing, and they would never get close enough anyway to his boat. Jose managed to track his length of time by tracking the phases of the moon, being an experienced sailor. He said on the 15th lunar cycle, he saw land, which was the Tile Islet, I believe, on the Marshall Islands. And then 2014 in January, he decided to leave his boat and swim for the shore. A beach house couple that was staying near the shore at the time found him. He was holding a big Bowie knife and he was shouting in Spanish. He had been 433 days at sea. His voyage had been 5,500 miles to 6,700 miles long. His vitals were good, but he had a high blood pressure, swollen ankles, and he struggled to walk. He was placed on an IV when he was seen by medical attention. His parents had feared him dead after the lack of contact and knowing that there'd been a storm. But his dad said he constantly prayed for him to be safe.
Oh, pues siempre yo tenía fe, como los días de yo fracasar, pues me pasa el fracaso y yo voy a tener fe en Dios primero. Le pedí a Dios que me cuidara los días que me iba a tener en el mar, porque yo no sabía si iban a ser 5 días o 10 días me iban a encontrar, yo no sabía, pero la fe y la valentía y que yo también no dejé a decir no puedo. Yo siempre decía, si algún día me van a encontrar, ya esto iba a pasar. Mi compañero no podía eso.
Es una pregunta sensitiva,
sí.
Pero es ¿cómo te sentiste cuando se falleció el joven, su compañero, y cómo es que saliste de ese punto, el más baja de la experiencia?
Pues para mí fue un día cuando él falleció, un día muy, digo yo, feo para mí, porque digo yo, porque no fui yo primero que descansé, porque yo no morí primero, algo así. Me agarró ese pensamiento cuando él murió. Y con la misma yo no podía evitarlo, quedarme solo sin hablar con nadie ya. Hablaba yo siempre lo anduve muerto como unos 8 días quizás. Siempre hablaba yo con él y algo así. Pasaba
Si lo tuvieras que hacer otra vez, si así se pasara otra vez, ¿qué harías diferente? ¿Hay algo que harías diferente?
Bueno, no lo quisiera yo que me volviera a pasar eso, porque fue un sufrimiento, que eso es un milagro. Yo porque yo no fui el valiente, no porque fue Dios. Si vuelvo a caer en eso, creo que ya no me pasaría, no me gustaría. ¡Oh! Padre Señor bendito, digo yo, que me volcó la lancha. Al segundo tumbo me tiré. Ya, la lancha arranca. Yo andaba nadando. Yo me alejaba en la lancha porque no me golpeara. a la hielo y me tiré nadando. Llegando a tierra, ya no pude caminar.
Government of this place for supporting me. My friend. They gave me support. Thank you for looking after me. I'm feeling better now. No more.
Gracias.
There could have been a second person sat here. As Alvarengo told authorities, a teenage fisherman had been on the boat with him.
The family of Jose Salvador Alvarengo, the fisherman who had been lost at sea for more than a year, have spoken out about their joy of finding out he was alive. Jose's brother Carlos says he's still in shock.
It was impacting. I was left speechless. I'm very happy and very grateful to God and to the people who rescued my brother. I am infinitely grateful to those people. I don't have enough words or gestures to thank them enough for everything they are doing for him.
Jose, thought to be from El Salvador. Jose's sister Yanira said that their mother never lost hope.
I went to El Salvador last year and my mother would always say, "Daughter, he's not dead." And I would say to her, "Mommy, don't get your hopes up." But then she told me, "No, I feel he's alive." Now I can see and prove that a mother is never wrong. A mother's heart is always with her children. And yes, she's very happy now.
So when they had a phone call to say that he was alive, they were over the moon. Even Jose's daughter went back to Mexico to go visit him. Experts would say that it would have been hard for anyone to survive that long, but due to his diet and the way he tried to maintain himself, that was his main reason for surviving. After 11 days in hospital, Jose was able to go home. He had anemia, he had trouble sleeping, and he had a fear of the water due to his situation. He did release a book based on his experience, but the Corbados family was offended and they accused him of cannibalizing their son's body for survival, which all we know from Jose is that he didn't. There's no evidence to suggest that he did. I don't know if you can tell that from someone's diet, I'm not sure, but as far as we know, no pieces of Corbados were ever found on the shore or anything like that. So yeah, as far as we know, Corbados is resting in peace in the sea. We don't know, but yeah. Other than that, that's the 2 survival stories of sea. Now, I don't know about you, but since watching Titanic, I've always had a fear of boats or ships anyway, because you just never know. Even the most experienced crew can clearly end up in the worst situations. And I think we all can agree that being lost at sea, your main panic is not food, it's sharks. But yeah. So if ever you do get lost at sea or go on a ship, please prepare yourself just in case, because you never know if you're going to have to help yourself and try to survive. Personally, I would have found it extremely hard because I'm not a raw fish kind of girl. But if I have to, I will. However, having said that, please comment down below if you have heard any of these survival stories, or if you'd like me to look at a specific survival story at sea. There is plenty out there. Do give it a thumbs up if you did enjoy these little stories, and comment down below your favourite parts, if anything. And as always, subscribe. So until next time, please just stay on land. Goodbye and God bless.